royals having a nice hearty lunch now, Nigel, I imagine, don't you?
So, and a glass of something, I
Yes,
expect.
I hope so. Camilla certainly will.
Have you been in Buckingham Palace, Nigel?
Yes.
For
you've been
what
hundreds
sorts of
of times.
occasions?
I've been many times, yeah. There was look, I'm going back, Michael would have been there far more, but going back 25 years, they used to do these early evening receptions where they'd invite 30 or 40 people for early evening drinks.
MPs
and
politicians.
I was a young MEP.
Yeah.
It was 1999, and to be invited in then, very, very, and to meet them both.
Yeah.
And then what happened was, you then went into a room, and they would mingle. And sort of, I was chatting with somebody. You know how you're conscious that when someone walks up beside you, you can't actually see them, but you know they're there. I'm telling you, there was the Queen.
They're amazing, isn't it?
And I thought, "Whoa."
And she does have that effect, didn't she?
Yeah, it did have
Always.
that effect on me, yeah.
The only person probably ever.
I mean, luckily, I knew she'd been at Cheltenham that week.
So you could talk
so
horses.
we discussed the racing.
Yeah, well, she's in her element then, isn't she?
Yeah, but so yeah, I mean it's and it's the garden party on Wednesday. Wednesday's the first of the garden
I think I'm going
parties.
to that one.
Yeah, I'm going to that.
Yeah.
And that's if you ever get the chance, and yeah, people do from all over the country people have done something in their communities. Get the chance to go. And the great trick, if you ever get invited at home, the great trick is to get into the queue as early as you can.
Yeah.
To get in, actually spend an hour just walking around the garden.
Which are beautiful.
And they're
aren't they?
fantastic, aren't they?
Yeah.
And they're enormous.
Yeah, they're enormous. It's about 40 acres.
Yeah,
Yes.
it is
It's about
incredible.
40
Yeah, it's
acres.
vast.
Yeah.
And it's really worthwhile.
Yeah, it is. And also, there'll be lots of veterans there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this year, I've no doubt there'll be a big turnout.
Yeah, yeah,
for veterans
yeah,
who'll be coming from all over the country.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's funny, isn't it? Because in one sense, Buckingham Palace is not that old,
No.
and yet it's such an iconic image of the country.
Yeah.
I was saying to Cameron, it always seems a pity that none of them live there now.
Yeah.
And it's-
I don't think any of them will live there permanently again.
I think
I
you're
just
right.
Don't see it. I think it's going to be opened up more and more as kind of a museum. It is, of course, owned by the state.
I mean, it really is a
royal
gold.
family themselves.
It is the ultimate goldfish bowl.
Oh, yes, but it's still going to be used for ceremonial and state occasions, with banquets, as you were saying, garden parties, Nigel, and the rest of it.
I mean, I wouldn't want to see it be a complete open museum. I think that one of the things about royalty that works is a slight element of mystery.
I agree.
Yeah.
About it.
What goes on behind those doors?
Yeah.
And every day there are hundreds, thousands of people gathered for photographs. It's one of the most famous buildings in the world.
Exactly, and that's why hundreds and thousands of people go inside every year, paying ticket holders to go and see it from around the world, bringing money to the British economy, of course. And they opened up the East Wing, which is where this famous balcony is, last summer for the first time, and it sold out almost instantly.
Of course.
It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah. And the Royal Mews and the Royal Shops.
Yes,
Lovely.
and I was we were speaking about the gardens earlier. During the COVID years, they opened up all of the gardens so the whole public could see them, and I couldn't believe, bearing in mind we're in central London, how vast they were. I think it's the largest private garden in central London.
It is, by a long chalk.
Yeah.
And the Queen loved those gardens, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Boris Johnson kind of ran around them, didn't he, during COVID as well? Yes. Well used.
Absolutely, yeah.
Looking at the pictures here on the screen of the Mall, absolutely full with thousands and thousands of people who have been released by the police, by the security, to make their way up the Mall. We weren't entirely sure whether they were going to make the judgment that would be okay, and of course they have, because if we look back 80 years, one of the most memorable images, Cameron, were the crowds that flooded down here. It just became a symbol, a sort of totemic image where people wanted to get to. They wanted to see the royal family and Winston Churchill at the time.
And the royal family created that unity, and I think there would have been such a sense of jubilation, of celebration this time 80 years ago.
We want the king, they chanted. We want the king, they chanted. Again and again.
Yeah, and we're getting a sense that this kind of being repeated, history's repeating itself a little bit. Of course, 80 years ago, the then Princess Elizabeth and Princess Margaret joined the crowds to cheer on
and they were chanting, "We want the king."
They certainly were, indeed.
And of course, they weren't evacuated, which is really interesting.
Yes,
and
good
because
point.
there was great debate.
Send them to Canada.
Exactly. They should have been sent to Canada, and the late Queen Mother and the King said, no, we've got to stay here and do what everybody else is.
And there was that moment when the palace was bombed and the Queen Mother could go to the East End and say for the first time she felt she could look the East Enders in the eye because they'd had bombs on their home too, which is a remarkable moment.
Yeah. And they mingled in the crowd, didn't they? The Queen and Princess Margaret mingled in the crowd. I wonder whether people did recognise them.
Well,
I should imagine a lot of them would have been bleary-eyed because Churchill did insist the pubs must not run out of beer. Do you remember?
Absolutely.
The pubs must not run out, and they were serving till 3 a.m.
I think it was quite a celebration. Queen Elizabeth was wearing, then Prince Elizabeth wearing her auxiliary territorial uniform. Said she pulled the cap down over her eyes so she wouldn't be recognised, but the officer she was with said, "I will not be seen with an improperly dressed soldier," so she has put her hat back up. But I think very poignantly today, Princess Anne, the Princess Royal, is wearing the uniform that her mother wore in 1945. That's uniform.
Just
so you see that on the
and of course, the two princesses, Nigel, did the conga. And do you think the people who had their arms around the waist realised they had their arms? They probably didn't.
Can you imagine now with all the close protection officers? Don't think it would happen.
They'd have a heart attack.
Yeah.
And Nigel, good to see the King so well. Or apparently so well.
It's good to see the King here.
Yeah.
I understand the treatment he's undergoing is pretty intense.
Yeah, sure, that's right.
He's putting a very, very brave face on it. And it was why the comments from his youngest son the other day were so inappropriate.
Gross.
So inappropriate. Unnecessary.
And why?
And the King had spoken last week.
Yeah.
Quite movingly.
He did.
About what it was like to have cancer, to have serious cancer. To say, look, it happens to me, it happens to you.
Prince or pauper.
And I thought, absolutely. And I thought that that was, of all the things that Harry said, that was the one that I thought was the most upsetting.
It's another sign why the King and his other son, can never trust Harry.
Never.
Ever again.
No, there's no conversation they can ever have with him.
Because it'll be on Netflix.
Yeah. So the King, I mean, look, he's been to Australia. He's here. He's off to Canada. In a few weeks. So he's doing his bit, but he is undergoing very regular treatment, as I understand it. So it's tough.
We're just watching the royal family heading back inside now, and just as I think the heavens may be about to open here, rain held off.
It did hold off.
Well timed.
You sounded a bit gloomy there, Nigel, about the King.
I felt very sorry for him. I mean, he had to wait an awfully long time. And by the way, he and I have disagreed on things quite publicly, and we've had a few private laughs about our disagreements. But Andrew, I've always believed that he's fundamentally a very good man, a very good human being, very kind,
decent,
very caring, very genuine. And he does care enormously about the Commonwealth and our connection with all those things. And chap had to wait until he was in his mid-70s before he got the job, and blow me down if within a few months
he's struck down with cancer.
He doesn't get a horrible diagnosis. So it's been, it's very tough.
And when you consider his parents had such remarkably good health for so long, his father going to 99, his mother to 97.
His mother and father, but of course, if you go back a generation before, they weren't living very long at all.
Well, George VI was 52, 53.
Yeah, so they were, and actually there've been quite a history going back of the males in the royal line not living very long. I just feel a bit sorry for him. That's all. But
it's just one of those things, isn't it? I should just say royal sources say that his treatment is going in a very positive direction. As you say, Nigel, we understand it is a weekly cycle of cancer treatments that he's currently on, so it's not sporadic.
And every now and again he has to step out of public duties because it's been so onerous.
He does, but he is at the moment carrying out a full programme of international and national tours. As you said, he's off to Canada in a couple of weeks' time. I suspect there'll be some kind of quite long haul tour actually in the autumn as well. But of course we need to be mindful of the fact he's got cancer and he's 76 years old. He's not a young man.
Yeah, and we've still got. Have you got any gossip on the timing of the state visit of the president?
No, September is the favourite.
Do you think so?
September is the favourite. My guess is that it will happen then.
Right.
And it needs to happen. Whatever we think of some of the things Trump's done, it needs to happen. That relationship with America is so important.
Yeah. Well, probably help if the Chancellor doesn't keep telling us it's far more important we do business with the EU. That was helpful, wasn't it?
Quite understand that when she was in DC, but
timing is everything. And
very
position.
odd, very, very odd. In defence terms, without America, we are nothing. And perhaps on a day like today, that's worth remembering. And VE Day, we did what we did, and we're right to commemorate it. But without the Americans, we couldn't have done it, and the Russians, frankly. We couldn't have done any of them.
And how much do you think as the royal family helps with the relationship between King Charles, with the United Kingdom and President Trump?
With Biden, it meant nothing. absolutely nothing. He wasn't interested in anywhere at all. Trump is obsessed with the royal family. I mean, he was so overawed by the Queen. Yeah. I mean, I had so many conversations with him. He just kept telling me she's a great lady. She's a great lady. And when he came here for tea on the official state visit, I mean, I spoke to him about 2 hours after he'd been in there, and he was just blown away. He just said, it's incredible. 70 years, no scandal, never put a foot wrong.
Yeah, never.
I mean, he just admired her incredibly. And he still likes the royal family very, very much indeed. So yeah, for us, it's very useful. Very, very useful.
Yeah, and they have to continue to mind that. I mean, that is soft power, Nigel. That's what we call soft power, the monarchy. It is,
yeah.
And it can be deployed very effectively.
I mean, there aren't that many Republicans in this country. There are some, and they moan about, what it costs to keep the royal palaces going or whatever it is. This is the most important form of soft power that any country in the world has. In the world. This is in some ways, in the West, this is the last proper old-fashioned royal family. If you go to Denmark, you go to the Netherlands, they've kind of downgraded it so much, it doesn't really mean all that much. Here it still means something.
I remember being at a reception about a year ago, and the King of Sweden was there, and I didn't even recognise him. Yeah. I didn't recognise the King of Sweden and the Queen of Sweden, King and Queen of Sweden. I didn't recognise them. Yeah. I can't remember their names. Who would recognise the King of Denmark? Who would recognise the King of Belgium?
Well, it's that global
the Queen
thing.
of Belgium. Is it Queen or King of Belgium? I can't remember.
Well, yeah, and even with the coronation here, just being in this media position.
We're back in vision now. If we could just have a little wave for our crowd there, everybody, because the GBNews fans
are they leaving?
Here.
Look at them.
All
There's loads of them.
People waving in the crowd. There are loads of them. They know we are the People's Channel.
A lot of cheering for Nigel here.
They know we represent this country incredibly well on a day like today.